I think it's fair to say that we all agree that crystallization catalysts are the most important items to craft in the First Descendant. In fact, it's entirely likely that this will end up being the item that is the most crafted by you as a player. That's because they are very important for increasing the power level of your Descendants by essentially giving you more mod capacity, meaning that you can stack more mods in and therefore make your characters more powerful. Now, I farm 2 of these, or let's rather say I craft 2 of these every day. I definitely farm more because I want to build up a surplus, a stock. And this has become part of my routine every day that I play, and therefore I've tried to compress this routine and make it as easy and as straightforward as possible so that I can get this done and then get on with the rest of the stuff that I want to do. And at the moment right now, I have this down to basically 1 rotation takes me just under 26 minutes, which is pretty damn good. So if I do this for an hour a day, I have a chance at 4 of these crystallization catalysts. That's a difficult word to say, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that, and we're going to go through it material by material so that I make sure that you don't miss any of that. So first of all, the actual catalyst itself requires 5 different pieces, 5 different reagents. So the first one is Murky energy residue, of which you need 8. Then you need 22 Macromolecule Biogel, and I'm reading this off a piece of paper because who the hell's going to remember this shit? Then thirdly, we need 8 mixed energy residue. And in the 4th place, we need 18 advanced neural circuits. And then last but not least, the piece that ties it all together is the blueprint. We need a crystallization catalyst blueprint. So starting us off first and foremost with our Murky energy residue. For me, the easiest place to go is the sterile land, and you go to this Forgotten Sense dungeon over here. So you just teleport over there. Now that's one of these big 20-minute missions, but the good news is you're not going to do the entire thing. About halfway through this mission, halfway through this 20-minute mission, you are going to fight a mini boss that will drop the items you need. But you don't have to worry about any additional items. You don't have to change the difficulty, nothing. We're not going to finish it. We're just going to go in, and we're going to go about halfway into this dungeon. So as you're seeing it running in the background here, basically what you're doing is you're passing through some different layers, a bunch of enemies to fight and so on. Nothing spicy at all. And you're going to get to an area where you have to hold out for about 1.5 minutes, and you have to kill a couple of waves of enemies as they come out there. And essentially you're just waiting for this timer to run down, and you can pass through the gate, and that's going to get you to this area where again you have to defeat a couple of waves of enemies. So there's 4 waves in total, and specifically what you're looking for is the 3rd wave. Once you get to the 3rd wave, you're going to get a mini boss to spawn, and this mini boss is actually going to drop the Murky energy residue that you are looking for. Now bear in mind, if you wear external components that increase the amount of consumable items that drop, this will actually increase the amount of these that drop as well. And I've had certain cases where I've seen up to 22 of this drop, but generally speaking, since we only need 8, this is good because even this figure that you're seeing here right now is without any increased equipment. I'm still getting 14, which means that I essentially have enough for 1.5 of these crafts. So then moving us on, the next one is the Macromolecule Biogel. So for this one, and by the way, after that you can just jump out like I did there, so you don't have to continue on. As soon as you get that to drop, of course you're free to finish the mission if you want, but you can just jump out because you're done and you have what you need. So for the next item, the Biogel, basically you want to be going to the Echo Swamp and you want to be targeting these 2 different outposts. There's of course other places where you can get this as well, and that's true for all of these mats, but this is the most efficient way that you can get these the fastest. So both of these outposts are very close to one another, and you can chain run them after one another, and you will get this item to drop from there. Sometimes both outposts drop, sometimes neither outpost drops. But either which way, when it does, again, you should have enough for 1 whole craft. So here I got 22 Macromolecule Biogel, and that's going to give me enough for 1 craft. But I always do both of these outposts in 1 rotation. So next we'll go to the next outpost, which is right over there. And that's of course in the derelict. We go down here. Now again, it goes without saying, you might want to think about doing these solo, private, meaning because then there's just less chance of other players potentially having already done them, and then you having to wait for a cooldown or something, even though the cooldown is like 1 minute now on outpost, which is, you know, a fucking straight dub. But the point is, I got lucky here. These guys were just about to start one, so I jumped in and I started fucking, you know, putting it down on these guys. And there we go, we get a second. So I was super lucky here. Both outposts gave me the item that I'm looking for, but there we got another 19, which is almost enough for a second craft. So then our next item is the mixed energy residue, and this one is a little bit of a stinker because the easiest way, the most straightforward way for you to farm this is obviously to open up caches. And if you want to really increase the yield that you get from those caches, you should be using Enzo to do that. Now, caches are, of course, this mini game that you play where you find these like statues out in the wild, and you basically you play a little mini game where you have to hit the key at certain points, and then it opens up. And depending on the quality of the cache that you open up, you will get some of this item. You'll get some of this mixed energy residue, but then you can also get Kuiper, and you can actually even get some skills, some transcendent mods for Enzo. But absolutely consider using Enzo because it makes the mini game easier, and it actually yields you more of the mixed energy residue, as well as, you know, the money and all of that stuff. So overall, the payout is just that much more. But specifically, what you want to be doing is going to the Agna Desert. The Agna Desert is the biome, it's the area in the game that gives you mixed energy residue from these caches. If you go somewhere else like White Knight, or you go to any of the other places, Vespers or whatever, you will find caches there, but they will give you another mat. So you need to be going to Agna. And I'm actually quickly going to run you through 6 possible places where these statues can spawn, where these caches can spawn. And if you run this little circuit, you are guaranteed to get at least 1, possibly 2, and that will give you enough of the mixed energy residue for you to also get a craft out of. So first and foremost, you want to be coming down to Mirage Stone here. Now, I don't have the sound turned up because I'm going to show you all 6, but you can do this faster by just using the ping method to find these. So I explained it in another video, and you'll also see me doing it here just now. But of course, you can ping either with using one of your analogs or using tab if you're playing keyboard or mouse, and then you will hear an audio cue if you are looking in the general direction of one of these caches. But I have a video on the channel as one which is specifically about this, which you should be seeing it appear in the top corner right now, which you can also check out if you need a little bit more detail about this. But I'm going to show you all 6 positions so you can just find it by just going and looking yourself. And since they're so close to one another, it's super easy. So the first place we're going to is Mirage Stone, then we're going to go to Vermilion Waste, and then last but not least, we're going to go up, and we're actually going to do one more area at the Remnant. But we're going to start off at Mirage Stone, and you're just going to jump on in. Now, when you're looking like this, straight ahead of you can be one of the caches, straight ahead of you, or down here and down to the bottom. But let's quickly run on over. So if we come on over here, you'll see, there we go, there's a cache right there. We can pop this open, play a little mini game, which is now a lot easier because you're using Enzo. If you're playing with your own, like another Descendant, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But there we go, there's 11 of that residue already, which is enough for 1 craft. Now I'm just quickly going to double back, and I'm going to show you 2 more places where these statues can spawn. So down here on this ledge here, you can also get a cache to spawn on either side or inside this cave. And for this Mirage Stone area, this is the best 3 places for you to come and check for it. Then heading over to Vermilion Wastes, which is a tough word to say, you're just going to peel out to the left, and there's actually going to be a hole that you can fall down here. There's a bunch of like things that you can loot here, but boom, there you will find another place where you can see a cache. It can actually spawn anywhere inside that cave, so just keep your head on a swivel and have a look. And then last but not least, going up to this Remnant area here, there's 2 more places. You can see some dudes are busy with it right now where you can go check. One is down in this pipe here. You can sometimes find one at the bottom, literally as you come in and you fall down and you turn around. You sometimes might see one down there, or a little bit further on to the left, I'll take you to another. So that's 6 different spots in Agna that you can potentially find this, and for sure you will have 1 or 2 of these statues posting around. So sometimes in the corner over there, and then also around here is another place. So that's basically everything that you can find. So now, next after that, we are going to be doing advanced neural circuits. That's the last one of the 4 different mats that we need before we move on to the blueprint. But this one, we're going to need to be going to White Knight Gulch. And there's actually, once again, I'm going to share not 1, but 2 different places that you can potentially find this at. Now, this is the one that will take you potentially a little bit longer than the rest because the amount that drops is kind of low. You usually get between 4 and 5 per drop, and you actually need 18 of these to be able to fulfill one craft. So the first place that you can go look at is in Moongrave Basin, and it is this one up here. Technically speaking, all of these missions can drop this from the bosses that you kill. It's a general drop in this area, so therefore you're looking for the mission that you can do the fastest. And the fastest one here is the Forgotten Comms Device. This is a 5-minute mission, and if you're playing a bunny or something like that, you're going to go a lot faster than 5 minutes. So you can simply teleport into the area quite close by to it, Forgotten Comms Device. And as soon as you come into the area itself, you can simply just run over there. Basically what it is a bunch of enemies that you have to kill in waves as you fight your way into the cave. You'll see it just now. And then the last boss in this rotation of enemies that you're killing can potentially drop this neural circuit. Now, in the footage that you're seeing here right now, I'm actually not going to be lucky enough to get a drop. So what you would do is you would just repeat this run over and over. And you can see how fast it is. It's basically 2 groups of enemies outside, 3 groups of enemies inside, and a boss that spawns right there. He gets electrocuted, he's done, and that's it. So that's one of your options in White Knight Gulch. Your other option, and this is actually the one that I prefer, is this little guy over here. So over to the left in the mountaintops area, you have the Borderline of Truth. Now this is one of those bubbles that you have to fight inside with the enemies that spawn, and you get 3 mini bosses that spawn in this at different waves, and each one of those mini bosses has a chance of dropping a bunch of these neural circuits. So that's 3 chances that you get. So it is technically longer to play than the previous one that we just looked at, but this one has potential of more drops. So it really depends on what you feel like. It's also considered, at least in my mind, a little bit more difficult. That 5-minute one that we saw just now is really easy, whereas this has you trapped inside with a bunch of enemies that shoot poison and shit like that, and fire and whatnot. So maybe it can be a little bit more spicy, but as soon as you start this mission, it drops the orb over you and you essentially kill waves of enemies, right? And you'll notice that the enemies, the bosses, always spawn on this little hilly top here, right there. And there you can see I've already killed the first of the 3 mini bosses that spawn, and you're gonna see, boom, some advanced neural circuits. Now this is the shit that you need, and you need 18 of this. So since this is the first 5 that I've got 5 out of 18 now, so I need another 13, so you can imagine how many more times I have to run. Now in the rest of this run, I'm also unfortunately not lucky enough to get more. But this is pretty much the mission that I usually farm on. Although if it gets too monotonous, I get a little bit over it or something like that, then I check out the first one, which we also had there. So basically you just finish this out, you kill all 3 waves, and as soon as you kill the 3rd boss, the 3rd yellow bar enemy, then you're gonna know you're done. Now bear in mind, these items, they drop like money and like kuipers. So be sure to go and loot and make sure that you find it. It does have a little icon though, but be sure that you actually go check and find these, because you can sort of super easily, you know, miss them. Now for the last thing, all right, what we need to do is we need to actually go into a 20-minute dungeon, and we need to finish one of those, and that is going to give you a chance at 2 of these, so like caches, which within them can have a crystallization catalyst blueprint if you kill one of the void bosses. Now we are picking the easiest void boss, which is the Devourer, and so we need to get amorphous caches for the easiest one for the Devourer, and those all come from Vespers. Now specifically in Vespers, there are 2 of these missions. There is the Shelter and there is the Sepulture. They sit, you can see here in Timberfall, you have the Shelter. You see it's a 20-minute mission. And then all the way to the right side in Vespers, in this area here, you have the Sepulture. Now, Sepulture is a very popular one on the internet. This is usually the one that people tell you to run. And it's a great mission. It's super easy. I think you can do it in like 4 to 6 minutes, depending on how many people you have in your team and how fast you go. But one of the reasons why I don't like it is because it's got one of those parts in it where you have to do like a little escort with that drone that feeds off of your shield, and that slows you down over time, and it's kind of like irritating. And so running that repeatedly over and over like is a fucking drag for me. So I usually split between these 2. I do Sepulture a bunch of times, but I also do Shelter. Now for the sake of the footage in this video, since everybody shows Sepulture, I'm gonna show Shelter. So just going over onto the left here, we're basically just going to access the mission, and then we're just quickly going to go through how you configure this mission in hard mode so that you get the right amount of score and you get 2 of these amorphous caches with potential rolls on the crystallization catalyst. So as you start the mission off, you can see here that you have a choice of 2 different sets of amorphous material. You have 78, you can see at the top there, 78, and then you can also switch it at the top to 79. You always want the first one, because the first one will have an opportunity of rolling on crystallization catalyst, and the second one will be on energy activator. So let me show you what I mean. So you can see here, we're going to need a score of 40k, basically 40,500, to get 100% chance at 2 of these patterns, at 2 of pattern 78. And if we go up here and we look what is inside pattern 78, we can see it's got an ultimate Ajax code, it's got smithereens, it's got clay spiral catalyst, and it's got enduring legacy, and then it has a 20% chance at a crystallization catalyst blueprint. That is the shit that we want. So we are going to basically I just want to show you quickly that you can also switch to the other one, and that is of course going to give you the opportunity of farming for an energy activator. So this is also a way that you can do that. That's of course at a much lower chance, like 6% versus the 20. But the point is, we want to do this one, and now we know that to get an opportunity at 2 of these patterns, we need to hit a score of 40,500. Now specifically on this mission, if you get your kill score multiplier up to 220%, that is going to be just enough to hit that score threshold. Now, how do you get up to 220%? Because by default, it's 100%. What you have to do is you have to enable some of these difficulty modifiers, if I can put it that way. So you can see if I activate all of them now, it's going to jump the difficulty up to 150, because now my HP is 8% less, my defense is 8% less, blah, 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 blah. And so now 150%, that's not the 220 that I spoke about. So how do we get to 220? Well, you can reroll. So we can reroll, and that's going to give us an opportunity at some more ones. So we check 200, that's not enough, boom, 200, not enough, boom, 200, not enough, boom, 220, good enough. However, do one final little scan and make sure that you don't have jump is disabled and you don't have sprint is disabled. Some of these dungeons, not the shelter, all right, but some of these actually require you to be able to, grapple up somewhere, and they require you to, basically be able to clear an area fast and all that stuff. So if you disable those 2, it's going to hamper your ability to play. Plus, it really sucks not being able to jump and grapple, and also not being able to sprint, because funnily enough, if you're using bunny, then if you can't sprint, you pretty much can't use your fucking ability. So that's a huge problem. So as long as you don't have any of those, so no jump, no grapple, no sprint, if that's not on you, you're good to go. 220, we can see that our firearm attack is lowered a bit, sprint speed is lowered a bit. The commander, which is the boss at the end, has higher resistances. The enemy has 13% more defense, and the commander has a little bit more attack. But this is way manageable if you have a mediumly geared bunny. So we're good to go. So we're going to kick this fellow off, and we're going to start the operation, because yeah, this should be doable for us. And now what you're going to do, you're just going to go through the dungeon, and you're going to play it until the end, and you're going to fight the boss. And the idea is you want to get above this score of 40,500. So this particular dungeon is super straightforward. You're just going in, and you're going through this area here, boom, jump down. Then this has one of these areas where you have to collect these items and bring them up to this and the supply ship. And then as soon as you finish that, you're going to be able to progress through to the next area. So just gather these up. It's pretty straightforward. Always go for the 3-stripe ones, because that gives you 20% of progress every time. And then as soon as that is done, can't believe I recorded all of this footage. I think it's pretty straightforward, but okay, anyway, it seems that's that's the way we're gonna do it. But there's 100%, grab your shit and then go. Then for the next section, you're gonna have these bomb areas. So there's gonna be 2 of them. That means you fight a bunch of enemies in a wave, and then you kill one final one. He drops the bomb, you put it on the tower thing, and then you move on. So that first generator we blew up there. The second generator is in here. So you go on, you grab that, you can see you just kill everything until the big boss guy drops what he's looked. There we go, boom, 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 there. and we slap that onto there, and we're good to go. Now we're pretty much going to the boss room. So we're going through, last couple of enemies to kill here, up here, through here, and we are in the no respawn area where we fight the boss. So kill a couple of waves, he comes out. In when I originally played this in normal mode, this boss was a motherfucker. He was really tough. But again, if you're like a relatively okay geared by the time you are doing this, you should be. And like I said, Bunny is a G when it comes to doing missions like this. In any case, you can just completely whack this guy out. And yeah, as soon as you kill him, and as long as you have more than the required score, now you'll see at the bottom, like over there, our score at the moment is 40,720. So like I said, 40,500 was like 40500 was the threshold. We are just over the threshold, and that's why 220 is just perfectly right. So as soon as we kill this dude, we're gonna see our 2 amorphous patterns drop. So there we go, hold on, boom, there, amorphous material pattern 78. So this is, now we have 2 of those, which gives us 2 attempts at the Devourer and 2 attempted rolls on a blueprint. So let's just quickly do that to finish us off. We'll just murder the Devourer. So technically speaking, you can do this with any pattern that has the catalyst in, which takes you to the blueprint in, which takes you to any of these bosses. But the Devourer is by far the easiest boss for anybody in this game, even with a subpar build to solo. He's super easy, and mechanically, even if you have to go into the phases where he heals himself, you can simply just go into those bubbles and fucking blow up and keep him from healing himself. But it's super easy, and he takes a shitload of damage. You could basically build yourself a tamer and kill him with a tamer. It's fucking easy peasy. But as you can see here, you can see he is changing in on the 78, the pattern, and that's going to give us 2 attempts. So this is going to be, I was thinking to myself, it would be really funny if I could get this to happen twice, because it would just make my point even more. But unfortunately, you're going to see what happens. But just quickly going to murder this guy out. I actually kept it in real time because the kill is fast enough that, you know, we don't have to speed this up. We can enjoy the conversation while we do this. But as soon as we kill him, we go over there and we try and get ourselves a blueprint. So let's check on in here. If I remember correctly, I end up getting a clay piece. So we want the blueprint. Now bear in mind, it doesn't matter if you use a shape stabilizer here. That's not going to affect your chance to roll on that. 20 is 20 after the shape stabilizer, so don't waste them. Obviously, you just have a higher chance of rolling on the first 2 items and a lesser chance of rolling on the back 2 items. But 20 is 20 in the middle, so don't waste any stabilizers. But then we go, we roll, and I think we get a clay piece. Yes, sir. Okay, so then we're just gonna go for our second attempt here, and this one is gonna work out a little bit more fortuitous for us, and we can just basically just blast him down here quickly. Like I said, this is a very well geared Lepic, but it's way doable with any other class, literally. But as soon as we go in here, we're gonna roll on this last one, and that is actually gonna give us the blueprint that we needed. So now you have all of the pieces that you need to be able to go craft one of these crystallization catalysts. And so therefore, if you're doing this, and like I said, this entire rotation that we just spent time looking at, coincidentally, the video is 25 minutes long now. It takes me about 26 minutes to do everything that we just discussed. And that's one rotation equaling 2 attempts. And so then you can pretty much extrapolate this and say, look, if you make time for yourself to do this an hour a day, which is not that much. And I mean, you can be leveling weapons while you do it. You can be leveling characters while you do it and all of that stuff. But you do this for an hour a day, you're giving yourself between 2 and 4 chances at all of this and being able to craft yourself the catalyst. And eventually you should be starting to build up a surplus, because you are going to struggle to spend 2 to 4 of these crystallization. Dude, my tongue just cannot do that word. These crystallization catalysts. And that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. I plan on making a couple of more of these, like farming for a specific item guide. This is kind of like my first one, and it ended up being a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but I did end up pausing the video a lot and adding in, you know, detail and nuance and all that stuff. So let me know in the comments down below if you guys would prefer the information to be a little bit more brief, and that I should make the assumption that you know a lot of this stuff already, or if this worked out for you. But either which way, the most important thing is that you get this on farm and that you get as many of these catalysts as possible, because you'll be able to blow your character's power levels, your descendants' power levels through the roof with this, and I can't wait to see it happen. Other than that, it's also just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Till next video, fucking cheers.